Chosen one, I have a declaration to make before anything else in this message happens, not as an opening line, as an announcement that heaven has been building toward for longer than you know. The test is over. I want you to hear that not just with your mind, which is trained at this point to evaluate such declarations carefully, having learned through experience to wait for the evidence before fully receiving the statement. I want you to hear it with the part of you that is older than your thinking, the part that existed before the test began and that has known, in quiet moments between the waves of it, that this season would eventually complete. The test is over, and today marks the beginning of the season that the test was creating you to enter. I know the weight of what I am saying. I know that you have been through something that was genuinely costly, not the ordinary kind of costly, where things are temporarily inconvenient and then resolve. The specific kind of costly that a long formation season produces, the kind where you paid with time, with energy, with the emotional reserves that normally sustain a person through ordinary difficulty, and then you kept going when those ran out. The test asked for what you had, and then it asked for what you found after that. And you gave it. That is not a small thing, and I am not going to acknowledge it with a small statement. What you did in the test season was not survival. It was the specific, irreplaceable work of a person being formed for a weight that ordinary resilience cannot carry. Type 777 in the comments right now if you know in your spirit that the test is completing, not as wishful thinking, as recognition. Because recognition is the first act of the new season, and the person who is standing at the door of their next season recognizes this message not from the mind, but from somewhere deeper. I want to ask you something before we go further. When you prepared for a journey that you were genuinely, certainly about to take, not one you were hoping for, but one you knew was coming, do you remember what that felt like in the days before departure? There is a texture to it, a specific quality of attention. You found yourself noticing things and categorizing them as things to bring or things to leave behind. Your mind was already partially in the new place. You were present in the old location, but your orientation had already shifted. That is the posture I am inviting you into right now. Not hope, not wishing, orientation. The practical interior movement of a person who has heard the announcement and is beginning to pack. Pack your bags, not as a metaphor about attitude, as a declaration about what is happening. Something has been prepared for you that requires the exact version of you the test created. And that version of you is ready. Not in the sense of feeling comfortable or having clarity about every detail. Ready in the sense that the formation is complete. The dimensions the destination requires have been built into you, and you are carrying them right now, in this moment, whether or not you can feel them clearly. Chosen one, I want to tell you what the test was actually doing, because from inside it, the architecture is not visible. The person in the middle of a long formation season can see the cost. They can see what it is asking for. They can see the length of it and the specific ways it presses on the specific places that hurt most. But the architecture that makes sense of all of those features, that is the thing that only becomes clear from the outside looking back. And I am here to give you that view today, not after more time has passed, because you have been inside long enough, and the outside view is what you need right now. A long formation season is not a holding pattern. I want to be precise about this because the holding pattern idea is one of the most common and most damaging misunderstandings about what you have been through. A holding pattern is what happens when a plane circles an airport because the runway is not ready. In that scenario, the problem is with the destination. The plane is fine. The destination is just temporarily unavailable. That is not what happened to you. The destination was never the problem. The destination has been ready. What was being prepared through every month and year of your formation season was the person who would step into it, the receiver, the carrier, the one whose dimensions had to match the specific weight and shape of what was waiting. This is a categorically different kind of delay, and it produces a categorically different understanding of what the delay meant. When you understand that the test was precision formation and not random withholding, the specific features of the season that felt most arbitrary begin to make sense. The length of it, not random. The specific places it pressed, not random. The particular kinds of stamina it demanded, and then demanded again beyond what seemed possible, not random. Each of those features was calibrated to the specific requirements of the assignment you are about to step into. I want to talk about the 5 characteristics of the chosen one who is at the end of their test season, because these characteristics are different from the characteristics of the chosen one in the middle of the test, and different again from the one who has not yet entered it. And the difference matters for what you are receiving today. The first characteristic: you are more tired than you are discouraged. This is a critical distinction. Discouragement is the emotion of someone who believes nothing is coming. It is directional. It points away from the destination. Tiredness is the symptom of someone who has been carrying something real for a long time. It says the carrying happened. It does not say the destination is not real. If you are more tired, then you are discouraged. You are in the right position to receive what is being declared today. The second characteristic: you have a quiet, persistent interior knowing that something is about to shift. Not a loud feeling, not excitement. Something quieter and steadier than excitement. A deep background awareness that the current configuration of your life is completing and something new is beginning to move into position. That knowing is not manufactured by this message. It was already there before you arrived here. This message is simply the moment where you are given permission to name it as real. The third characteristic: the things that used to press on you most severely are beginning to press less, not because you care less or because the circumstances changed, because the person you have become through the test has a larger capacity than the person who entered it. What was maximum weight for that person is no longer maximum weight for who you are now. You may not have noticed this directly, because we rarely notice the growth of our own capacity in real time, but it is happening. You are carrying more than you could have carried before the test, and it is costing you less per unit of weight than it did. The fourth characteristic: something that has been dormant in you for a while is beginning to stir. It feels like hunger, like energy returning after a long conservation period, like readiness assembling itself from something that has been dispersed for a while. This stirring is not imagination. It is the system that has been sustaining through the test, beginning to shift its mode from sustaining to preparing for deployment. The fifth characteristic: you are here in this specific moment, receiving this specific declaration. Something in you pulled you to this message before your analytical mind could explain why. That pull was the receiver recognizing something it was waiting to hear. And that recognition is the beginning of the new season activating in you. Chosen one, I need to talk to you about a reality that most teachers of the formation season do not address. Not because they do not care, because they do not know about it. It lives at the intersection of the spiritual and the neurological, and it requires knowledge from both sides to describe accurately. Here is what I want you to understand. The human brain was designed with two hemispheres that are meant to operate in synchronization, not alternating, not one or the other depending on the task. Simultaneously, in a coordinated partnership that produces a specific quality of functioning. When that synchronization is active, the mind operates at the level it was designed for. Intuition and analytical thinking work together instead of intention. Creative discernment and practical clarity are not competing for space, but are partners in the same process. The ability to receive spiritual input and translate it into lived reality is not a matter of trying hard. It is an effortless flow that comes from the synchronized state. This is the state you were born in. The research that won the Nobel Prize in 1981, conducted by Dr. Roger Sperry over decades of careful work, documented this state with scientific precision. His findings established that 98% of children operate in this synchronized whole-brain state by age 5. The percentage drops dramatically through childhood and adolescence as the pressures and habits of modern life push the hemispheres toward more isolated operation. By early adulthood, less than 2 in 1,000 maintain natural whole-brain synchronization. The rest of us are functioning with a receiver that was built for full capacity but has been operating at partial capacity for years or decades. Now here is what this has to do with your test season and with today. A long formation season makes extraordinary demands on the human system. Sustained trust in the absence of visible evidence. Continued returning when returning is not logical by any external standard. Managing the gap between what the spirit knows is coming and what the circumstances are currently showing. These are not ordinary cognitive demands. They are the specific demands of a person in the formation season of a chosen one call. And the system responds to these demands by doing what it was designed to do. It manages resources. It prioritizes. It narrows focus to sustain the essential functions. One of the things that narrows in this management process is the synchronization between the hemispheres. The mind, managing a sustained high-demand situation, begins routing certain functions through one hemisphere more than the other. The intuitive, spiritually receptive functions and the analytical processing functions begin to operate more in sequence than in partnership. Each still works, but the simultaneous coordination that produces the full receiver state is somewhat diminished. This narrowing is not a failure. It is a protective response that helped you get through the test, but it has an important consequence at the end of the formation season. When the test completes and the new season begins, the arrival of the blessing does not automatically reactivate the full synchronization. The chosen one can arrive at their destination and still feel a version of the cognitive and spiritual fog that was present during the test. Not because the destination is wrong, not because the blessing is incomplete, because the receiver has been in conservation mode and has not yet returned to its full capacity. This is why I said earlier that packing your bags includes restoring the receiver, because arriving with a diminished receiver means you will take in only a portion of everything that was prepared for you. And what was prepared for you deserves to be received in full. All of it, the depth of it, the width of it, the specific details of it that were tailored to the person you have become through the test. Before I tell you specifically what I am referring to, I want to hold a question in front of you. What if the fullness of what has been prepared requires not only arrival, but arrival with a receiver that is restored and fully online? What if the final preparation for the new season is not more waiting or more formation, but the specific restoration of what the formation season narrowed? Hold that question as we continue. Chosen one, let me tell you what the test produced in you. Not the obvious things, not the spiritual fruit that everyone talks about, the patience, the perseverance, the deepened faith. Those are real, and I honor them. But I want to name things that are less often named, because what is not named is not fully received. And receiving what the test produced is part of what makes the new season different from every season that came before. The test produced in you a capacity for depth that is not native to any human being. No one is born with the ability to hold a long promise in the absence of evidence and continue forward at full engagement. That is not a natural human capacity. It is a built capacity. It gets built through sustained exposure to exactly what your test season asked of you, and the depth of it is proportional to the length and intensity of the exposure. What the test produced in you is therefore not a generic version of this capacity. It is a version calibrated to the specific length and weight of what you went through. The test produced in you what I am calling the ready receiver state. The ready receiver state is not a feeling. I need to say that clearly because the word state can suggest something emotional or experiential. It is a structural condition. It is the condition of a receiver that has been trained through sustained adversity to stay open under conditions where closing would be understandable, to keep the signal alive when everything around it is producing silence or noise, to hold the capacity for spiritual reception without requiring constant confirmation to maintain that capacity. Most receivers close when they go too long without a positive signal. It is a natural protective response. The receiver that was built through your test season does the opposite. It was trained through repeated cycles of the same demand, keeping itself open, returning to the signal, maintaining the capacity even when maintaining felt expensive. And now that the season is completing, that same structural openness is positioned to receive what is arriving, not because it is trying, because it was built for this. The ready receiver state is what the destination was waiting for, not a more worthy you in some abstract sense. A receiver that could take in what was coming without being overwhelmed by it or unable to translate it into daily lived reality. That is you, right now, in this moment. The test also produced in you something I am calling the departure signal. The departure signal is the interior movement that begins when the formation season is completing. It is the set of experiences I described in the 5 characteristics earlier in this message. The specific quality of tiredness that is no longer about discouragement, the quiet interior knowing of shift, the stirring that feels like hunger returning after a long conservation, the sense of things beginning to move that have been still for a while. These are not random interior events. They are the departure signal. They are the formation season announcing its own completion to the person who is inside it. I know the train is coming not because I can see it yet, but because I can feel the platform beginning to vibrate. The departure signal is the vibration in the platform. The train is not far behind. You may have been receiving the departure signal for days or weeks and attributing it to wishful thinking. I want to reframe it now. The departure signal is not your hope. It is the announcement from the season itself that it is completing. Hope is what you generate from inside your own resources when you want something. The departure signal is what arrives from outside, from the architecture of the season, from the God who designed the formation and who announces its conclusion before the conclusion is visible in circumstances. When the departure signal is present, the correct response is not more careful evaluation. The correct response is the packing act. Chosen one, the packing act, is the response to the departure signal. And it is a specific kind of response, not a prayer for more confirmation, not a waiting for more visible evidence that the season is truly ending before committing to the posture of readiness. The packing act is the decision to prepare for arrival before the arrival is fully visible in the world around you. It is what happens in the practical interior world of the chosen one who has received the departure signal and is choosing to respond to it with preparation rather than more evaluation. Most people, when they feel the departure signal, do something understandable. They protect themselves. They have learned through the test that hope that arrives too early costs too much when the circumstances do not immediately confirm it. So they manage the signal carefully. They let themselves feel it a little, but not too much. They receive the possibility, but do not let it become the operating assumption. They pack partially, keeping one hand on the unpacked bags in case they need to unpack again. I want to speak to that protective impulse with complete compassion and then with a clear invitation. The protection is real. The cost of hope, not confirmed, has been real, and the protection served you inside the test. But the test is ending, and the same protection that helped you survive the test is now the thing that will prevent you from stepping fully into the destination. Because stepping into the destination requires the packing act, not partial packing. The full interior movement of someone whose orientation has shifted from sustaining through the test to preparing for arrival. What does the packing act look like in practical terms? It looks like releasing the identities and postures that served the test season. I am going to name several of them specifically in the closing portion of this message. It looks like adopting the interior posture of someone who is about to receive what has been prepared, rather than the posture of someone who is still waiting to find out if it exists. It looks like making decisions from the position of the ready receiver rather than the position of the one still being tested. And it looks like taking the practical steps that are consistent with the belief that the new season is real and is arriving now. One of those practical steps is addressed by something I told you earlier I would return to, the discovery that addresses the narrowing of the receiver state that happens through the formation season. I am going to tell you about it now, in full. Because this practical step is, in the framework I have been describing, one of the first acts of the packing act, not the spiritual step of releasing and reorienting, which I will walk you through in the closing. The practical, physiological step of restoring the receiver to the capacity that the new season requires. Type receiver in the comments if you understand the distinction I am describing and you know in your spirit that this is for you. Chosen one, I want to tell you the story of a woman from California. I am sharing her experience because she went through exactly the junction I have been describing. The end of the formation season. The beginning of the new season, and her experience illustrates something I want you to understand from the inside, not just as a concept. She had been in a formation season for several years, not a season of obvious crisis that would be easy to point to and explain. The harder kind. The kind where things were functional on the surface, but underneath there was a gap that kept not closing. Between the promise she carried and the reality she was living, between the vision that had been given to her early in her journey and the version of her life that was actually unfolding day by day. She had done everything that a faithful, serious, spiritually grounded person does in that situation. She returned to prayer. She stayed connected to community. She continued to engage with the calling even when the calling was not producing the visible results she expected. She held the promise, and she kept going. When her season began to shift, something happened that she did not expect. The shift brought good things, genuinely good things, the kinds of things she had been believing for over the years of the test. But when they arrived, she noticed something troubling. She could not fully take them in. It was as if she was standing at the window of something she had been waiting to enter, and the window was clear enough to see through, but the door was not fully opening from the inside. The good things were present and real in her life, but the depth of reception she had expected, the full landing of them, the embodied sense of them being truly hers to inhabit, was not complete in the way she had imagined it would be. She described it this way. She said it felt like arriving at the destination but not quite inhabiting it, as if part of her was still in the posture of the test season, still in the mode of managing and sustaining, and the arrival of the new things had not yet reached that part. She was not ungrateful. She knew the things were good. But the full reception of them, the ability to be fully present to them with all of herself, was not yet there. She came across something that a colleague had mentioned: 8 minutes a day, with headphones, eyes closed. Not a spiritual practice in the usual sense. An auditory sequence built by a neurologist and his team in New York, engineered based on decades of research to restore the whole brain synchronization that her long formation season had gradually narrowed. She was cautious. She had become cautious about a lot of things through the test. But she was also honest with herself about the experience of arriving at the destination and not fully inhabiting it. And that honesty was enough to try. 10 days in, she described something opening, not dramatically, not with a single moment of revelation, gradually, and then clearly. The same good things that were already arriving in her life began to land differently, not more of them, not faster, but landing at a deeper level of reception, the fullness of them becoming accessible in a way it had not been before. She said it was as if the resolution on an image that was already present had been turned up. Everything that was there became more fully received, more real in the specific way that things feel real when the whole person is present to them. That is the specific experience I want for you. Not more blessings, not a different destination. The restoration of the receiver so that the blessings that are arriving can be received at the full depth they were prepared to reach. Chosen one. I want to address now the block that shows up most commonly at this specific junction in the chosen one experience. Because this block is real, and it is not a sign of weakness or unbelief, and it needs to be named before we move forward. The block does not announce itself as a block. It presents as a reasonable question, and the question is this: what if I am wrong about the season ending? What if what I am feeling is hope that I am generating from inside my own desire rather than the departure signal arriving from the season itself? What if I pack the bags and then have to unpack them again? I want to speak to that question with care. The first thing to say about it is that the question is not coming from unbelief. It is coming from wisdom. A person who has been in the formation season long enough has had the experience of hope arriving early and costing something when the circumstances did not confirm it. They have learned to be careful about their own hopeful feelings, and that carefulness is not a character problem. It is a survival adaptation that worked during the test. I honor it. The second thing to say is that the question is asking you to evaluate a present feeling by examining it from inside itself. This is an impossible standard. No feeling can confirm itself from the inside. What is needed is an outside reference point, and the outside reference point I am offering is not another feeling, it is a fact. Look at what the test actually produced in you, not what you feel about what it produced. The concrete evidence of a formation that has been active and real. The capacities that are present in you today that were not present in you when the test began. The depth that exists in your receiver now that was not there before. These are not feelings, they are structural realities. And the structural reality of a completed formation is the outside reference point that answers the inside question. The third thing to say is that there is a physiological dimension to this block that makes it feel more justified than it is at this particular moment. The pattern that activates when the chosen one is closest to breakthrough does not work by producing obvious fear of the destination. It works by raising the volume of every legitimate concern, every reasonable question, every genuine caveat, right at the point of closest proximity to the arrival. The questions feel more pressing now, not because they are more valid now, but because you are closer than you have ever been. The loudness of the question at this moment is not evidence that the concern is most justified right now. It is evidence that you are at the point of closest approach. You are at the door, and the door is open. Chosen one, let me take you now to the story from the ancient text that I believe illuminates most clearly where you are standing today. Because the ancient text is full of formation seasons and full of chosen ones who walked through what you have walked through, and the patterns in their stories are not coincidence. They are the architecture of how God forms the person for the assignment. The story is Joseph. Joseph received the promise at the beginning, not in ordinary language, in the language of dream, which was the form his spirit could receive at that stage of his life. The promise was specific, a position of extraordinary influence, a calling that would place him in a role of provision for a very large number of people who would depend entirely on the carrier of that calling. The promise was real, the source was God, and then the formation began. What happened next looked from the inside like the complete reversal of the promise. Brothers, betrayal, the pit, the selling, to strangers, going to a foreign country. The years of slavery in a household where he was treated as property rather than a person of calling. Every feature of the formation season, viewed from inside it, looked like contradiction of the promise. The promise said elevation. The experience said descent. The promise said influence. The experience said constraint. The promise said it would come to pass. The experience said nothing consistent with that was happening. But from the outside, the architecture was clear. The pit was not punishment. The pit was the first calibration. The capacity to hold the promise without external confirmation was being built. The capacity to trust the source of the promise when all visible evidence contradicted it was being established at the level of foundation. Joseph could not have been given what he was ultimately given without this foundation. Not because God required him to earn it, because the assignment required a carrier who had been built at the foundation level. And that kind of building requires the kind of environment the pit provided. Then the prison. Another layer of the formation more specific than the previous one. The prison was the calibration for the management of extraordinary responsibility under conditions of constraint. Joseph, in the prison, managed the other prisoners. He brought order to a constrained environment. He applied the gifts God had given him, the gift of insight and interpretation and administration, in the smallest possible arena. He practiced the specific functions of the assignment in a context that offered no confirmation that those functions would ever be needed at the scale the promise described. He did the large work in a small room, and the large work became natural to him in that small room. In a way, it would not have become natural to him through any other process. When the moment came, it came completely, not partially, not with provisos. The cupbearer who had forgotten remembered. Pharaoh dreamed. And the gift that Joseph had been practicing in the prison was suddenly and completely required at the highest level available in the world of his time. The formation was not extra preparation that could have been shortened. It was the exact preparation that the exact moment required. I want you to notice something specific about the moment in that throne room. Pharaoh did not choose Joseph because Joseph was more impressive than the wise men of Egypt in some general sense. Pharaoh chose Joseph because in that specific moment, with that specific dream, in that specific need, Joseph was the only one in the room whose receiver was calibrated for what the moment required. The formation had not made Joseph generically better. It had made Joseph specifically right for that moment, in that room, with that assignment. That is where you are, not in the pit anymore, not in the prison anymore, at the door of the throne room. The formation made you specifically right for what is waiting inside, and the door is open. Chosen one, let me now tell you specifically about the discovery I referenced earlier. Because you have enough context now to understand what it is, what it does, and why the timing of knowing about it today is not coincidental. A team of neuroscientists working under the leadership of a neurologist named Dr. Daniel Barone spent years focused on one specific problem: the gap between the spiritual and psychological readiness of a person and the functional capacity of the receiver they carry. The exact gap I described when I talked about what happens to the hemisphere synchronization through the long formation season, the state where the receiver is structurally ready but physiologically narrowed. Their research was built on the Nobel Prize Foundation that Dr. Roger Sperry established in 1981. Dr. Sperry documented that whole brain synchronization is the native, designed state of the human mind, not a special achievement. The birthright of every human receiver, and he established that this state, when it has been narrowed by the sustained demands of life in the modern world, can be restored through specific auditory protocols that work with the neural architecture, not against it, not around it, through it. Dr. Barone and his team took over an hour of clinical neural synchronization technology, the kind used in specialized neurological and psychological settings where a single session can cost $300 or more, and through years of compression and refinement, they reduced it to an 8-minute auditory sequence, 8 minutes a day, headphones on, eyes closed. That is the complete physical requirement, nothing more. They call it the Genius Switch. It is not a music product. It is not a relaxation tool. It is not a guided meditation in the usual sense. It is a targeted auditory sequence engineered to restore the specific whole brain synchronization mechanism that Dr. Sperry identified. It uses frequencies and timing patterns that simultaneously engage both hemispheres in the coordinated way the hemispheres were designed to operate. The experience is not dramatic. It is quiet. Most people describe it as settling, as a sense of things coming into alignment. Some notice clarity arriving after the session. Some notice the effects most strongly after several days of consistent practice, when the cumulative restoration becomes obvious. The Genius Switch is for the chosen one who understands something specific. The receiver they carry is their primary tool. It is the thing through which prayer lands as knowing instead of words, through which the call is heard as direction rather than background noise, through which the promised provision arrives as embodied reality rather than distant hope. If the receiver is narrowed, everything that comes through it arrives at reduced depth. If the receiver is restored, the same God, the same promises, the same calling, the same destination, land at the full depth they were designed to reach. 18,000 people have already made this their daily practice. The results they describe share a common theme: not new information becoming available. What was already there becoming fully receivable. The depth of reception increasing. The spiritual and practical dimensions of their lives beginning to operate in the integration that the whole brain state makes possible. Let me tell you about a man from Texas whose experience I think will resonate with many of you in a particular way. He had been the carrier through the test season, the one everyone else was leaning on. He had provided stability for his family while managing his own interior journey at the same time. He had stayed faithful to his calling while managing the practical demands of a season that left very little room for the kind of interior nourishment that a long journey of faith actually requires. He had been generous with what he carried, perhaps more generous than was sustainable over time, and by the time his season began to shift, his own interior life was thinner than he recognized. When the new season began to arrive, something did not feel right. The decisions that should have been natural for someone at his level of experience and formation still felt effortful, not impossible. Effortful in a way that did not make sense to him, like moving through something that was slightly thicker than it should be, like knowing what the right direction was but having to work harder than expected to actually move in it. The integration between what he knew spiritually and what he could apply practically was incomplete in a way he could not fully explain. He started the 8-minute practice not from a place of great expectation, but from a place of honest recognition that something was operating below its designed level. And the change was not dramatic at first. It was gradual, then clear. Over 3 weeks of consistent daily practice, the friction reduced. The decisions that had been effortful became natural. The quality of his thinking improved in a way he could feel concretely in his daily work. He described it as his mind returning to the performance level it was built for. Not a new mind, his mind, functioning at the level it was designed for instead of the conservation level it had been running at through the test. And here is the part that I think matters most for where you are today. He said that the spiritual dimension of his life changed alongside the practical dimension, not as two separate improvements. As the integrated change of a system that was returning to its designed state, prayer became less effort and more reception. The sense of connection to what he was called to became more consistent rather than fluctuating based on his daily energy level. The things God had been saying to him for years began to reach the level of action in a way they had been reaching the level of knowing, but not quite breaking through to before. That is what the restored receiver state makes possible. Not a different call, not new information. The full reception of what has always been true, arriving now at the depth it was always intended to reach. Chosen one, let me walk you through what the Genius Switch includes, because Dr. Barone and his team did not create a single tool. They created a complete transition system for the Chosen One, moving from the formation season into the new season. The core is the 8-minute auditory sequence. It runs each day and works through the cumulative restoration of the synchronization mechanism. The effects compound. Day 1 produces something. Day 10 produces more. Day 30 is a different level of receiver than the one you bring to day 1. The practice is designed to be permanent, not a temporary treatment. The receiver, once restored, tends to hold at its restored level when the daily practice continues. At no additional cost, 4 resources are included alongside the core sequence. The first is a guided visualization created specifically for the transition moment. It is designed to help the mind and heart picture the 4 dimensions of the new season: the relational, the financial, the spiritual, and the practical, and begin orienting toward them with clarity and specificity rather than general hope. The person who can see the destination clearly is already partially in it. This visualization does that work. The second is a practical guide to the 10 foods most commonly associated with cognitive fog and the alternatives that support the kind of mental clarity and physiological readiness the new season requires. The practical and the spiritual are not separate systems. The body is the platform the receiver runs on. What you put into the platform affects the clarity of what comes through it. The third is a foundational text on abundance that has been at the center of many of the most effective approaches to spiritual and psychological breakthrough over the last century. It is included because the abundance that is coming in the new season requires an abundance framework in the mind that is already prepared to receive it. Scarcity thinking in a season of abundance produces the experience of poverty even in the presence of provision. This resource addresses that at the root. The fourth is a printable guide to the 5 daily practices that, according to the research, create the conditions most favorable for the life God has prepared to unfold with full velocity. These are not complex practices, they are specific and doable. And for the chosen one, in the transition moment, having the 5 practices as a daily framework provides the structure that the new season requires. The entire collection is backed by an unconditional money-back guarantee. No conditions, no required justification, no time limit specified. If the Genius Switch does not produce the receiver restoration and the clarity improvement that Dr. Barone and his team describe, every dollar returns to you. The risk is functionally zero. Now, the cost. When Dr. Barone first showed this work to colleagues in the clinical space, their response was consistent. This is worth several $100s at minimum, given what in-person neural synchronization work costs. A single hour of clinical neurofeedback is $300 or more. A home neurofeedback device that produces similar results is several $1,000s. Dr. Barone and his team made a decision to make this accessible. The list price is $49. Today, on the page the link in this description connects to, there is a $10 reduction applied, $39 for the complete system. The link is in the description below and in the pinned comment. It takes you directly to the page where Dr. Barone and his team present the work. That page has everything you need to make a fully informed decision. Read it. Take the time you need. But I want to be transparent about one thing. The $39 price is what exists today on that specific page. It may not be the price available through other paths at other times. For the chosen one whose spirit confirmed something during this message, today is the day the decision belongs to. Chosen one, before we arrive at the closing, I want to address something directly, because by this point in the message, the avoidance signal has been active in some of you for several minutes, and I want to speak to it clearly. The avoidance signal specializes in one thing: making a simple, practical, low-risk decision feel complicated at the moment of closest proximity to breakthrough. It does not produce irrational fear. It produces reasonable-sounding concerns at the moment when the concerns would be most effective at redirecting the action that the confirmation is pointing toward. Some of what you may be hearing right now is this too simple. Can 8 minutes a day actually do what is being described? Is this the right time, financially? Do I really need something practical at what is essentially a spiritual moment? Let me speak to each of those. Too simple. The mechanism is not simple. The engineering is not simple. Decades of research and years of refinement went into what is being delivered in 8 minutes. The delivery format is simple. The mechanism is complex. Those are not the same thing. A vaccine is delivered in seconds. The complexity is not in the delivery time. Can it do what is described? 18,000 people who have used it report consistent themes. Not 100 people, not a select group. 18,000 across a wide range of backgrounds, situations, and starting points. The consistency of the pattern across that number is not explained by placebo. It is explained by a mechanism that works. Financial timing. $39 backed by a full money-back guarantee is, in practical terms, a risk-free decision. If the product does not do what it describes for you, the $39 returns. You are not risking $39. You are choosing whether to try something at no net financial risk. Those are not the same calculation. Spiritual versus practical. The chosen one who separates the spiritual and the practical has not yet understood what the formation season was building. Joseph did not only dream, he administered. The formation created a person whose spiritual depth and practical capacity were integrated. The new season you are entering requires both. The restored receiver is how both function at full capacity simultaneously. For the chosen one whose spirit confirmed something during this message, the link is in the description and in the pinned comment. The action is simple. The stakes, given the guarantee, are low. And the receiver restoration that the Genius Switch produces is one of the first practical acts of the Packing Act. Chosen one, I want to take you through something before the closing declaration. Not just tell you, take you through it. Stop for a moment. Whatever you are doing around this message, let it go for just the next 2 or 3 minutes. Give your full attention to what you are about to receive. This is not a technique. This is the posture of the receiver activating. The ready receiver does not partially attend. It attends fully to what it is receiving, because full reception is what it was built for. I want you to picture the first morning of the new season. I know you do not know all the details of what the new season looks like. That is fine. You do not need the details for this. You need the texture. What does a morning feel like when the weight that has been your companion through the test is not the first thing you reach for? When the mind that opens into the new day is clear, in the way that only a restored receiver experiences clarity, when the first orientation of the day is not toward managing the test, but toward inhabiting the destination. Picture that morning. Hold it, not as a wish, as a preview. What I am describing to you is not a fantasy constructed from hope. It is the documented experience of the chosen one who has arrived at the destination with a restored receiver. It is what is coming. And the picture you are holding right now is not imagination. It is your receiver recognizing its home environment and responding to it. Now notice something in your body. There is a part of you that did not resist that picture, that recognized it, that settled into it slightly rather than deflecting from it. That recognition is the ready receiver state, responding to what it was built to receive. It is not manufactured by this message. It was already in you. The message gave it permission to be named. Place your hand on your chest now, not ceremonially, literally, and make this declaration in the interior, not necessarily aloud, from inside. The test is complete. I am the ready receiver. The bags are packed. The new season is here. That is not a statement of hope. That is a declaration of position, and the position is real. Chosen one, I want to come now to the closing of this message, and I want to begin the closing by speaking directly to the part of you that walked through the test. I do not mean the part of you that is here today, ready for what is next. I mean the part that was in the pit years, in the waiting, in the specific months and years where you were being asked to hold something at a cost you had not anticipated when you received the promise. I want to acknowledge that person, not with a general acknowledgement, a specific one. That version of you did something extraordinary. Not because extraordinary came naturally, but because the formation required it. The capacity to return to a promise when returning was expensive, to stay faithful to a calling when the calling was not producing visible confirmation, to hold the receiver open when keeping it open was the most costly thing available to do. That is not a common human experience. Most people, when the test runs long enough, make some form of peace with a reduced version of what was promised. They adjust the expectation to match the reality they can see. They protect themselves in the reasonable and understandable way that the human system protects itself when the cost of holding becomes too high. That version of you did not do that. That version of you held. And the holding cost real things. Time that could have been spent in a different orientation. Energy that was invested in sustaining through a season that kept not completing. Relationships and experiences that passed while the test was still running. I am not going to minimize any of that. The cost was real, and the cost produced what the destination required. Every unit of the cost was functioning within a design. The formation was not indifferent to the cost. The formation required the cost because the carrier it was building needed to be formed at the level of foundation, not the level of surface. And foundation work is expensive. And you paid it. Nothing was wasted. That is not consolation. That is the architectural truth about what the test was. and what it produced. Now I am going to name the things you are releasing as you step through the door of the new season. Receive each of these as a real release, not a list to be read. These are things that served you in the test and are no longer your equipment. You do not abandon them with ingratitude. You set them down with honor, acknowledging what they did for you, and you walk through the door into what requires a different set of things to carry. Release the identity of the one still being tested. It was a real identity, and it served its purpose completely. It is no longer the operating identity. You are not the person managing through the test season. You are the person who completed it and is entering what it prepared you for. Release the posture of waiting for more visible confirmation before fully receiving what has already been declared. That posture was wisdom inside the test. Outside the test, it becomes the obstacle that keeps the arrival at a slight distance when the arrival is already present. The ready receiver does not wait for more evidence before fully opening. It opens, because that is what it was built to do. Release the weight of the test season, not by forgetting it. You carry the formation it produced with you, but you release the weight that was specific to the season. The heaviness that belonged to sustaining through difficulty. That heaviness is not required in the new season. It can be set down, and setting it down is not ingratitude. It is the correct response to a season completing. Release the grief for the time and experiences the test cost you. This one is real, and it deserves to be named fully. Things were missed during the formation, moments that passed, opportunities that seemed to close. There is genuine grief in that, and the grief is allowed. And then the grief can be released. Because the chosen one who carries the grief of the test into the new season is carrying something into an environment where it does not belong, and where it will prevent the full inhabitation of what the new season offers. Release the resignation that time was lost when time was being invested. This is subtle but important. The formation season, from inside, can create a sense of time having passed without the destination arriving. That is the subjective experience of it. The objective reality is that the time the test required was the time the formation required. Every day of it was being used, not wasted, used. Releasing the resignation means taking hold of the truth. And the truth is that you are arriving at the destination with everything the test produced in you intact and available. Release the habit of receiving the promise from a protective distance rather than from full inhabitation. The test trained you to hold the promise at a slight remove as a protective measure. That training served you in the test. In the new season, the invitation is full inhabitation, not believing the promise from across the room, being inside it, living from the position of the one who already has what was promised, not the one who is still hoping for it. Chosen one, what you are stepping into is real. The formation was real, the promise was real, the cost was real, and the destination is real. You are stepping into a season where the capacities built in the test are the specific equipment required, where the receiver that was trained to stay open through the silence is positioned to receive what is now arriving, where the depth that was built through the formation is the exact depth the destination requires to be fully inhabited. You are the ready receiver, not the one who barely made it through, the one who was made by the making, the one who carries in their structure the specific formation of the specific assignment. And the assignment is here. The link in the description and the pinned comment is for the chosen one who is ready to take the first practical act of the new season. The restoration of the receiver that the formation narrowed and the new season requires at full capacity. You have been faithful through something that was genuinely hard. The faithfulness was not wasted. The test was not a mistake. The formation was not punishment. It was preparation. And the preparation is complete. Type "I am ready" in the comments as a declaration of position, because you are ready. The test made you ready, and the restoration completes what the test began. We seal this over your life, over the new season beginning now, over the receiver coming fully online, over the destiny that was prepared for the version of you the test created. The bags are packed, the door is open, the arrival is now. And so it is.